Hi, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Discord was being douchey, which is
Yep.
a shame because it allowed me to. If I can get it to work, we'll figure it out. It'll be much better for the show, I think, while we're doing this social distancing stuff. Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host Austin.
And I'm your co-host Ian.
This podcast was created to provide you, our heroes, with new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but neither is our D&D games.
We should also add as like an addendum, our show may not be suitable for our own computers.
That's funny. Oh man, I am really super excited for the show today. We got an awesome topic, something that was actually brought to my attention by a patron of something we hadn't covered: conversions of old content into 5th edition. This is something I'm very familiar with, specifically for 4th edition content, but I'm really excited to talk about that. If you guys enjoy our show and you would like to support us, head on over to critacademy.com. You can check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/critacademy, or check out some of our best-selling D&D supplements, or just subscribe to our show and be entered to win Fat Loots every single week, and get notified when something new comes out that we've released. I am really excited to announce that we are planning a Kickstarter for our memorable monsters. So you can expect some emails and some posts to go out about that. And looking to get feedback on it. Is this something you're interested in? Would you support it if we did it? All that jazz. So keep an eye out. I wanted to cover the the new Theros book next week, but physical copies have been pushed back to the end of the month, so that's going to be a little farther out, which means our contest is going to be a little farther out. Unfortunately, that's due to the pandemic, and that's really out of our controls. We do not actually know the heal spell in real life, so can't just fix that shit.
Man, if I could cast Cure Wounds on demand,
Oh, dude.
I'd probably be a daredevil IRL. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh yeah, dude, I'm gonna do this triple backflip off this ramp here real quick. Oh, I broke my leg. Not anymore.
Never mind going to help people. You're just gonna hurt yourself. I see.
Absolutely. Do it for the entertainment. Do it for the content. Man.
That's true. I can see that. I mean, basketball stars get paid way more than nurses, so.
I hate to say it, but you're right.
It's too much truth to
But they
that.
also test letting crap out of them too, so...
Right.
Who gets paid more? The head of the guard or the guy healing the head of the guard?
Right. So, Crit Nation, thank you so much for joining us here today at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your rules don't matter.
Yep, that's right. Your roles are like your favorite character from an older edition, just collecting dust while you play 5th edition. Which,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, we've all probably been there.
Oh,
I
I
mean-
have entire stacks of 4th edition characters and a few
Okay.
3rd edition and
To
Pathfinder.
be frank, I haven't played anything other than 4th edition, 5th edition.
Oh man, we
so
should fix that.
I wish I was like alive and conscious to play 1st edition just to see what that roller coaster was, because apparently it was just this for people.
Savage.
So,
It was hard.
yeah. So
I only played
wish
it once, but I died. So
I can imagine.
anyway, anyways, for our Let's Talk About Blank segment, I want to talk about Running Hordes, the lazy way to run lots of D&D monsters. This is an article by Sly Flourish. If you head on over to critacademy.com and just click on the link for the blog post for conversions to 5th edition, you'll find the link there. This is really interesting. We've done the mass combat coverage on previous episodes. I wanted to talk about this because if you don't know who Sly Flourish is, the guy puts out amazing D&D content and some amazing articles. Make sure you head on over to slyflourish.com and check that shit out. It is fantastic. Mike Shea is awesome. Now that I'm done gloating over fanboying over one of my favorite heroes here, I wanted to talk about this. We all have seen those movies where the heroes are turning around a corner and there's a big horde of monsters. And we're well aware that 5th edition itself doesn't really have rules a good set of rules for handling that mass combat. And
Yeah.
in our mass combat, we talked about our opinions on it and stuff and how it should be. What interests me about this is he had a really kind of a different way of taking it. Now, we're not going to read through the article, but I would like to touch on a couple of his his bullet points here. And now it breaks this entire running of hordes down into basically 3 large parts: tracking the damage done to the horde, tracking the horde's attack damage, and adjudicating, areas of effect. And that's really all you need to deal with it. For example, he says here, for tracking damage done to a horde, track the damage inflicted to the horde instead of an individual monster in a single damage tally. Basically, you write down the hit points of a single monster in the horde to keep track of it, round it up to the nearest 5 or 10 to make the math easier. So you're trying to simplify it and speed it up that way. And when the damage tally takes enough to kill one or more of the monsters in the horde, remove those monsters and reset the tally to 0. And you don't. And then you carry over any extra damage. That to me is really interesting because basically you're just keeping tally marks, basically. And the horde gets weaker as you do that. And that to me is really interesting. What do you guys think about that?
There's a lot of ways to do it, and this is definitely one way to do it.
I was thinking because it says you could track like maybe your heroes go up against a horde of 10,000 monsters, right? And what you could even do to that is just every damage done, you could just say that was one monster. So
Yep.
just you did 9 damage, you just went through and just hit 9 dudes all in succession. I thought that'd be kind of cool too.
Yes, and that to me very much is reminiscent of the minion rule in 4th edition, right? Minions have 1 hit point.
Yeah.
And so heroes feel epic when they go and they sweep and cleave and 5 guys roll over and die. I mean, that's really epic. And
you could even set up the situation so easily too, right? You could say a Deva just came down and said I bless you all with this power, go forth, get from point A to point B, and just wreak havoc and that'd be great. It'd be easy.
Yeah.
Actually, when you mentioned this topic, the mini rules from 4th Ed was the first thing that came to mind. And the rules there in a nutshell is, if they're a minion, they have 1 HP.
And they will die.
Yep, and that's why they have their own classification. If a hits them, that's it.
And if they succeed on saving throws, they don't take damage, but that's an oversimplification of how things work in 4th, because things are different in 4th. So,
So the next bullet point is, tracking horde attacks and damage output. So determine how many monsters in the horde attack a given character based on the circumstances of the battle. That first line there is important because that basically says you as the DM just decide, okay, on this round, 20 goblins run up and try to cleave my player in half. I just decided that it was 20. Why? Because that's what I decided. And that's kind of what it sounds like he's going for. You just, based on the circumstances, decide what's happening. You don't got to track actual numbers. You just make it up on the fly, which is pretty interesting. And it says, when in doubt, divide attacks equally among those characters the horde can reasonably attack. So if all 20 aren't going for one character, there's 5 characters. Maybe you send 5 at each one, right? And it says, when the horde attacks, assume 1 in 4 attacks succeed. You're automatically assuming that 1 in 4 attack succeeds. That's fantastic. If the horde has advantage, assume half succeed. That's fantastic. And if disadvantage, assume they all fail. So he's already making it super easy, so it's less about rolling dice and just getting on with this mass combat. So and he does say that, you adjust this, up or down depending on the circumstances. If someone casts shield or has a crazy AC, remove a couple of the successful attacks, right? So say you've got a group of 20 goblins and then 5, hulking orc guys. Well, orc guy's going to be a little bit stronger. So maybe instead of 1 in 4 attacks for that one, it's
maybe 1 in 3 or something.
Yeah.
Something just a hair higher, what I mean?
Just to quantify that variable, which I think is fantastic. What do you guys think about that little detail?
It's an interesting one. And I'm only skimming through this quickly, I didn't really keep up, but actually it did say 4E style mini rules is an alternate system that can be used too, so.
Right.
There you go.
as is like the mob damage calculator, which is a website for scaling bigger monsters into swarms.
Yeah. One of the things I actually considered is making a minion bestiary, where it's just all minions that have all one hit point. But they have unique ability. Each one has a unique ability that kind of offsets the fact that it dies in one hit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right.
Something to think about, but I don't know if that'll go anywhere. Anyways, the other thing, another bullet point he talks about is educating the areas of effect. So
This is the one that I'm most interested in because I wouldn't know how to personally rule this.
right. So he says so Mike says when the horde is hit with an area of effect such as turn undead, hypnotic pattern, or obviously fireball, educating the result with these guidelines. Now, guidelines, people, guidelines. You can change it and make whatever decision you want. These are just to help make it simpler and make sure you're consistent, right? Just like the books.
Yep.
Determine how many creatures are in the area of effect. And let's assume it's a lot of them, right? Because you want this to feel
Yeah.
epic, right? That's the whole point of a big battle. So,
I mean, I don't know if you know how big 20 feet is, but 20 feet's kind of a lot.
especially when you actually plot it out onto a board and realize that it's harder than you think to avoid people.
And point
Yeah.
out 20-foot radius, which
Yeah.
is a 40-foot diameter, so
Huge,
Yeah.
bigger than almost every like room you're ever in. I didn't ask what size the room was. I says I cast fireball. Anyways, so for this for this situation, you assume 1 in 4 of the creatures in the horde succeed on their save. 1 in 4. That means when he fireballs,
There's 1/4 of them.
yes, that's it.
That is-
And that also
True.
goes for the like the hypnotic pattern or charming effects. Like I would love the fact you can just like instantly reduce how effective they are. I think hypnotic pattern like puts them in like a daze effect. So you could apply that to the previous ruling of, oh well, now they all have what is it like disadvantage or whatever was the ruling for or advantage for the party hitting more of the enemies than they would have previously, or vice versa. The enemies do less damage. You can go either way, I think. If the horde takes high damage enough to kill a single creature, remove all affected creatures. Extra damage doesn't carry over. So
just incinerate all of
just
them.
boom, they're gone.
Yeah, they take that entire 40-foot diameter, lift it from the table, put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're dead. They're
What?
gone.
What's pretty cool here, he says, because you're adjusting based on the circumstances, this can lead to, pretty true heroic moments, and also as a DM, just make your life easier, which I honestly am a huge fan of, because I don't have the time to sit and prep for hours and hours and hours. I run my games like I do, but really there's probably like 4 bullet points, and that's it.
Steve
Honestly,
asked from chat, how does player character attacks round limits the number of minions that can be killed, or do you remove minions equal to the damage done?
I think if I'm understanding it, you just remove minions based on the damage done. So if you swing a great axe for 26 damage, boom, there's 26 guys are gone.
alternatively, it does say, so you could say like, if it does like 5 to 10 damage, you can remove 1 minion, depending on,
Right.
like, obviously if it's like a horde of like 20,
Ogres, like
or ogres, yeah, like something beefier than just a random goblin or a kobold flying
Right.
at you. You want it to seem like a little thicker skinned, right? So
Right.
you don't want this guy, this hero with this this dagger, and I'm gonna stab him in the chest. He's
Right.
probably not gonna go down.
Yeah, so the easiest way to do it is if you've got 200 goblins running around, maybe you give them each 1 hit point, so 200 points of damage wipes out the army. But you could just as easily say you got 20 ogres and they have 200 hit points, so it takes 200 damage to kill the whole thing. That's the way
That
I'm
would be-
taking it.
That just gave me such a weird just like epiphany. If there was like 200 goblins and that's is the equivalent of 200 health, you could totally make that like a boss encounter. Who needs
Yeah.
a big bad boss guy when you could just say the boss is all of these people?
Try to
And
survive.
you can't win until they are all dead.
Actually,
Every single one.
it occurred to me like I've seen some like sieges and mass combat being done too by actually making it a skill challenge.
I've
Yes,
seen that
I've done
as well,
that.
actually, and it's specifically when I used to play World of Darkness a long time ago. There was actually the DM didn't know how to rule because there's supposed to be this big battle going on, right? And he decided, we'll just make a variety of skill challenges, and if you guys swing high on damage, you just cleave through a solid chunk of them. And he decides when there was enough damage and bloodshed done, you guys won, or alternatively, the city was lost.
Right.
Whichever. And I was like, that was it. Weirdly enough, it was really smooth. And World of Darkness combat, I find, isn't very smooth. So I was actually very happy about it.
Oh, that's funny. Um,
So
so the,
yeah.
the last point I want to touch on is here. If any effect would incapacitate any number of monsters, you just remove them from play. You don't even worry about them, which to me is fantastic because the assumption is that in a battle like that, if you incapacitate somebody, somebody's gonna walk by and just step on their throat.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah, easily. They're just gonna walk by and just finish the job, right?
yeah,
No, and it's you in a warfare situation, you have to think it wouldn't be like a second thought, like, oh, is this
right.
guy dead? No, he's just going to stab the guy and walk forward.
And that makes sense why you would just then remove them from play, right?
Yeah,
And then the last guideline is
guideline.
adding up remaining damage done to creatures who survive and add it to the current tally for the horde. If this kills more creatures, remove them and then reset damage to 0 and roll over the remaining damage. So, to me, go ahead.
I actually feel like I've also seen done too. Like the entire horde, if you will, just has just one big HP bar, and as
Mhm.
you hit stuff, stuff just dies.
Yep, and that's kind of how I feel like this is the approach he's taking.
Right, similar, not quite the same, but
Right.
similar.
Right. Which I think is a really, really, again, it's simple, but it's effective, right? It does
Right.
the job. It's, which is also like, and you could also say like maybe you have 200 goblins, so that's 200 hit points, but then you got like 50 ogres, so you add another 250. Boom, that's 450 health. Now you have a gigantic boss battle.
Yeah, and you can easily just decide narratively what's happening.
Exactly.
You know, because you're not individually. This goblin with an eye patch attacks, the wizard, while the goblin with the missing left arm attaches. It's just hey, they swell up on top of you and start to overrun you, climbing over top of you. Clubs, daggers, short swords, all manage to. You can't block them all. Boom! Here's how much damage you guys take. Move on.
Another really cool thing you could do on top of that as well is you could even do like what if your player is like, well, I'm not, maybe the wrong idea is to go charging into this horde. What if I, do something else like military tactics or something, right? Maybe you also have an army with you, and that's the whole thing, right? It's two armies clashing. Well, if you tell your commander, hey, there's like this weak spot over here that's, like we can just move some of our troops over and cause this, rockfall or something to collapse, because I'm sure there's probably this tactics player out there somewhere who wants to shine. Like, make it work. Like maybe because it was such a smart idea, maybe you just reduce like a 50 like damage or 50 health from it or something like that.
Captain, their flank is weak. Release the trebuchet. But sir, we'll hit our own people. That's a risk I'm willing to take.
And then you roll the dice and you hope that you actually do hit the enemy and not your allies.
Anyways, I think we hit this pretty well. Is there any last points before we move on?
Nope, that was good for me.
All right. Once again, you can head on over to slyforge.com or critacademy.com and click on the blog post for this episode, and you can check out all the rest of this article because we didn't cover the whole article. There's a lot of detail here.
Yeah,
there's a lot more,
including alternative options for doing something similar from other sources. So definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, before we move on to our main topic, Austin,
we have a gift to give away.
we do.
And the gift today is from Loresmith, the Modular Dungeon Tiles, the Arcania set. So the Modular Dungeon Tiles are an easy way for you to create your own beautiful digital maps. The Arcania set in particular lets you make these dark, shadowy dungeon maps rich with the fumes of arcane secrets. I usually say there's some magic item, maybe you'll find a weapon of warning. On the other hand, maybe you'll find I've been playing too much Skyrim, I'm thinking of Draugr. You'll find like a specter.
That's funny.
And he's coming through the wall, and he's not happy because you're alive, and he's not.
I'll claw the shit out of you. Who's our winner today?
It looks like our winner today is I'm gonna go with Ama LJW.
Woo!
As Paul JW.
Anyways, congratulations, Amal JW. If you enjoy the product, please let Loresmith know. Check out some of his other content. He has got some pretty awesome stuff. If you haven't checked out Remarkable Inns or Remarkable Shops, you are missing out. Those are absolutely stunning DM tools to use for your game. So, if you didn't win, have no fear. Crit Academy is here. Head on over to critacademy.com/Loresmith and get a free digital terrain and many, many other things, including some one-shots and stuff. So, lots of good stuff. Check it all out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on to our main topic, the bread, or the meat of our, episode sandwich.
No, our Unearthed Arcanas, or not Unearthed Arcana. Good lord, I am not on top of it today.
That's okay. I know the feeling. You mean our UTTs?
Yes, our UTT.
That's our
That's
secret
pretty-
sauce, man.
It's usually like pretty big too. Yeah, I guess it's
That's our special sauce.
Yeah,
Because everyone can talk about topics, but we bring you stuff to use in your next game.
that's true.
That's our
true.
special sauce. Actually, I'm pretty sure Brandon debated me with that forever. Said it wasn't it. Anyway, so today
It would be Brandon.
we are going to be talking conversions to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We are reading a document that provides guidelines for converting characters and adventures from earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons to 5th edition.
May I reiterate? Guidelines.
Yes.
Guidelines.
Yes, he's got
These
it.
are not rules. They are
Yep.
guidelines. They are the white lines on the road. You could follow it. You should probably follow it, but
You don't have to.
If a car's coming after you, you don't have to follow it.
That's funny.
And the part I find this interesting is just because are so many features from all the previous editions, especially 3.5 or 4th, that just simply don't exist in 5th edition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's, I think we always hear, I wish Wizards of the Coast would release this setting. Dark Sun, I'm going to go, because that's the one I see the most. I wish they would release a Dark Sun setting.
What's
Dude.
Dark Sun setting?
It's probably one of the most popular D&D settings, because we play in Forgotten Realms, but in Dark Sun, it's got its own. Honestly, I don't really know. I never played, but it's a big deal, apparently.
Steve says more Greyhawk.
Greyhawk was good. I did play a little bit through there, but I mostly played Forgotten Realms and Eberron, so I don't really know the big. But the point is that you literally can almost read right from these books and run your campaign with very minimal effort as a DM, and that's what makes this tool so great. Is because it kind of gives you the guidelines you need to do that, and when you read through it and realize just how simple it is, you'd be like, oh, well, they don't have to release a new Dark Sun book because I've got the old one and pretty much all this stuff works. So
I mean,
Yeah.
for that matter, even back during the playtest, a friend of mine said, can you run this module? And I definitely had to make a few changes because some of the monsters that were in there, especially at that time, had no equivalent
right.
in 5th edition. So I'm like, okay, swap this out for something because it seems like a similar thing at a similar level or a similar feel or setting. So
And
like-
it's crazy you say it like that because that's literally all it takes.
yeah.
That's it. You just find something that like, oh, but this looks like this, and I want to modify it just the tiniest bit. You don't even have to do a lot usually. And you're just like,
Right.
oh, that's it. I'm done. I did it. I now made this thing more towards this setting.
Like in the module, for example, like arguably the most dangerous encounter in the entire thing is actually the very first one, where you fight this creature called a moon cow. I'm like, this thing's called a moon cow? How tough could this thing be? Okay, it's stats. Holy crap, this thing's dangerous.
It will literally devour me.
Look at this picture. What eldritch horror in the name of Cthulhu did this thing come from? Why does this thing have a non-intimidating name? But once again, there's nothing like it in 5th edition, so I just dropped in the Ejaculate instead.
See, and you can, and that's the beauty of it is the players don't have to know what the stats are and what the abilities are. You pick a monster and you just describe whatever the other book says. It's as
Right.
simple as that. So the first thing we want to talk about is levels. Surprisingly,
Yeah.
converting the level is easy for every other edition, but only up to level 20. They're basically 1-to-1. The only one that's different is 4th edition. And since most of you don't play 4th edition, we don't have to worry about it. But basically, you're taking 2/3 of the 4th edition level. That's it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. You're going to say something, Ian?
Because like in 4th edition, players can get up to level 30. So
Yeah, so for 4th edition, you need to use 2/3 of the level, right? So if they're level 3 in that game, they would be level 2 in 5th edition. That's it.
Yep.
Boom, done. And like I said, for the rest, all the levels are 1-for-1 up to 20th level. So there's little effort you need to do as a DM. Cover it. Checked it off the book. What's next, Ian?
why after we get our levels checked off, we then go to race.
Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Choose the race that most matches your character's race. For instance, a wild elf in Faerun is closest to a wood elf in the player's handbook. Replace all the racial traits with those from the 5th edition. Ignore the traits that have, no bearing whatsoever on 5th edition characters,
Right.
such as like a 3rd edition's favorite class traits or other class edition limitations. And racial proficiencies of like similar skills, be it like tools, weapons, so forth. Just dropping in whatever's most similar for 5th edition. You might need to slot some skill proficiencies here and there, for like tools for which mostly matches what we have available, but that's no big deal. We already established that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, I see this I know I just released weapon perks, so that makes this more ironic. Is people complain that there's not enough weapons, different types of weapons, and so in this scenario, you're talking about, oh, this race gets a specific weapon proficiency. Oh, maybe it's a katana. Well, then just give them proficiency in the longsword, because it's the same damn thing mechanically. And so, yeah, you may need to do a little bit of reflavoring or swapping some stuff, but that's actually relatively easy. Just pick what makes sense. Oh, it's an elf. Well, it probably is smart. Maybe it gets an intelligence bonus instead of this one, this other bonus. Maybe it gets,
Dexterity, maybe.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
but those are so minor.
Or if like playing like a Warblade from like 3.5, for example, just closest thing would be a Battlemaster.
Yeah. And just you can
Literally.
even keep those names. Like you could say, "Hey, I'm playing a Warblade, aka a Battlemaster." Nobody cares. In the game, you don't talk about what your class is. Not every Battlemaster says, "I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm a Battlemaster." No, I'm a badass soldier or warrior or whatever. Anyways, so races are pretty simple. Once again, just maybe you may have to poke around to find the right correct proficiencies, but other than that, you can just pick one that already exists with similar abilities.
Yeah.
There are rules. There are additional rules here in this text specifically for the DM for making conversions. So for races that aren't represented in the player's handbook, they recommend just creating races. It starts in chapter 9. It's super simple. If you have to go that way, you can. But it does say that for consistency, keep only those racial traits that are consistent from edition to edition. So if you're playing something that is from 1st edition and only one trait made it all the way to 3rd, 4th, or whatever, that's the one you want to keep, not all the other random shit that they change regularly. I think trance would be a good example for elves, right?
Yeah.
I think trance has been there forever. So,
we don't need sleep. We just meditate.
Right. There also are details into ability scores, and they give you the numbers. I'm not going to go through and explain that, but for some of the other versions of the games, they do say, the exact types of numbers and how you should convert those. Once again, I recommend picking up this conversions to 5th edition document for those details. The same thing with like infravision's not a thing anymore. It's just dark vision, right? So you may have to do a little bit of investigation to find out what's got a new name, but it's super simple.
Same thing with like low light vision. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so Steve is saying way back when AC was reversed. That was called like to hit AC or something, right?
Yeah.
Taco. Um, that's older than me, but you know. So the big change we want to talk about is the class. Austin, do you want to tell us about the class conversions?
Sure. So, in you, for fifth edition, you kind of have to choose a class that most like closely matches your character's class or classes if you multi-classed. And alternatively, you can choose a class that most closely matches how you'd like your character to be in the game's narrative. So, for instance, uh, you might be, you know, you might think that a warlock or a sorcerer might be better fit for your magic user's story rather than the wizard. Similarly, you're free to decide that a fifth edition's paladin class or a cleric of the war domain better expresses your fighter cleric than multi-classing does, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
In the whole like multi-classing thing, like
Yep.
you could choose to be an eldritch knight, but also there's paladin,
Right?
and they're not while not obviously the same because paladins have like auras and stuff, but like they share a lot of similarity where a paladin's just like a magic wielding frontline warrior dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
And
kind of boil it down to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think to a degree too that when you convert from one edition to another, there are some things you're just going to have to let go of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like like for example, like back when fourth edition was the main thing, I remember one conversation I had was like, "Do you want to play fourth edition? No, because I like to play fighters. Okay, then play a fighter. But I like the fourth edition fighter. It plays nothing like what I love about the fighter. What you love about the fighter? I love stabbing things repeatedly and doing this and this. Okay, then play the ranger. But I don't want to play a ranger. I want to play a fighter.
That's actually a fantastic point. It's important when you're trying to decide what kind of narrative character you want to play.
Right.
You have to reframe your thinking of how something is described from its name and rethink more of how the flavor works. The
Right.
best example I can give you of this is watch Tulak the Barbarian's shit. How he reflavors everything and makes everything seem completely what it's not, all because
Yeah.
how he says it's different.
Right.
And it's kind of brilliant in a lot of cases.
Right.
There's some stuff he gets real crazy with. I'm like, no, I can see it. That's the strangest part.
Right.
Or like
And
another example too is like once again for fourth edition, even though it was a very short-lived character because he died because he either had really good luck or really bad luck, and there was one battle where the really bad luck came home.
oh no.
Was I basically played an elven fire monk, and he was great. Like all of his martial arts moves were fire based, all his melee attacks were fire based, and so on and so forth.
You're like, yeah.
But you don't have that in fifth edition.
Right.
The closest you have is that I forget what it's called, the elemental monk, which nobody plays.
The Way of Four Elements monk because it's and no one plays it because it's fucking not good.
Yeah, exactly.
It needs help. You need to modify the guidelines in the books and lower some key points because you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, and the only way I could really think of for me to play that character in fifth edition would be like, okay, I want to play an open-handed monk, but I want an option to make my bludgeoning attacks fire instead. Are you okay with that?
And honestly, I think generally when you're converting stuff like that, you can be more loose with the rules than you may previously because you're really trying to go out of your way to make sure you can pull in this
Yep.
old character
Well,
archetype or whatever.
even like even in the monk example, like I think I forget, I don't remember what level it is off the top of my head, but like you get like key empowered fists eventually, right? So you can just say all of your moves are literally on fire.
Oh, that's cool.
And it ignores resistances.
Yeah.
So you can literally just punch a guy to death.
Or
And
I
you
could
can just
easily
say,
see it too, where like I could see a DM going, okay, I'm just gonna give you these like hand wraps that convert your bludgeoning into fire, and that's all
Oh.
it does.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you have an in-game reason why that mechanic is different, right?
Right.
I like that. And that's a simple. It could be like an heirloom or some family heirloom or something.
Right.
So
speaking of changing like classes to make them feel a little bit stronger or better, don't also be afraid to modify a class. That's another thing. It's for the DM. It's in class conversions, but you can modify a class. Now, obviously, you don't want to just make something absurdly strong. I would hope, but
right.
like you can always choose like a class at a starting point, and you can always just modify like even just something as simple as like changing divine smite from radiant damage to necrotic damage.
Yeah, Dark Knight or Dead Knight or Undead Knight. Shit,
Death
Death
Knight?
Knight, maybe. Yeah, I guess I don't know,
Death
but
Knight?
I'll get there
I don't
eventually.
know.
Yep.
A Dread Knight? I
Yep.
don't know.
Ooh, I like that.
Oy. I'm not gonna lie. The more we talk about this topic, the more I realized ahead of time that this was the topic, because I had one or two friends from back in the day that's played multiple editions throughout the years. I would have been interested to see what their insight was on all this.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I don't have old experience just from the couple editions I've played. So,
I have no old experience, so I'm kind of just banking off what I can think of.
and well, you're doing great. So there is one thing I want to touch on before we move on to ability scores. In multi-classing in fifth edition can be the answer to a vast majority of your issues.
Absolutely.
so-
I 100% agree with that.
You can sure you won't get your end cap game stuff, and you might get your extra attack a little later than everyone else, but the amount of versatility you get from multi-classing, you can literally make any sort of character concept you want.
I actually recently made a multi-classed character. We were level 6, and I mean it was a Warlockadin. Wow. But like I could like even though I didn't feel like I was as strong as some of the other characters who were playing, sure.
Mhm.
But like I felt like I could tackle most situations.
Right.
Like and that's just like the point of it, right? Is like that's what multi-classing does. It says you're sacrificing a little bit of that power, and you're instead of a pyramid, you're trying to get to the top of the pyramid. It's more like a hill. You can go further.
That's funny.
Yep.
So on to ability scores. So in most editions, a character's ability scores, unmodified by magic, can convert directly to 5th edition values. In all
point.
cases, the upper score limit is still 20, with a
Wow.
few extra guidelines. In those
Yeah.
guidelines, you have exceptional strength. In first and second edition, allowed for some characters to have exceptional strength, which was expressed as a percentile value following the score of 18. So, exceptional strength has no conversion values, so the character strength is 18.
Beautiful.
Yeah, right? Simple,
That's
right? Scores that are higher in 20, especially in 4th edition. This was so, oh my god, 4th edition characters could blow up the moon, all right?
Did they really?
they were godlike. It was bad.
When you hit like the plus 20 range, yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
was tier for a reason.
Jeez.
so in this case, such scores should be treated as 20s. Or alternatively, you could just reassign ability scores described next should be used, right? So it's this conversion of your old stuff isn't hard, right? How about reassigning ability scores rather than converting scores, especially if you have trouble doing some, because maybe even though we say it's easy, somebody may stumble and still have an issue. You can actually follow the rules for determining ability scores set forth in the player's handbook, or just use the standard scores optimized. So you could just ignore transferring the old scores altogether and just build them out of the player's handbook. You don't necessarily, you can bring in an entire character concept. Oh, I got a high dex rogue. Well, okay. I don't got to try to play 20 questions. Oh, well, it was level 5. Well, luckily, you can transfer it right to level 5. Well, at level 5, you would have whatever your starting ability scores are, and you have the option of a feat or a ability stat increase. So you can still just build it out there as close as you want.
Yeah,
So.
And like I could even see like if a character like say in 4th edition had a score that was higher than 20 and you're trying to like port it over to 5th edition. Now I understand you would probably want to like retain some of like that, because I'm assuming at that point you're probably a fairly high level character.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm hoping that's safe to assume, and you could probably like you could probably do something like either like maybe like there was like, let's say like in Dex, right, and like they were really good at hitting stuff, Like they exceptionally hitting hard. Well, then just give them like a +2 magic item, like +2 like weapon or something, right? And you can still leverage it off, like
Yeah.
to emphasize the idea that that character hit really hard,
Right.
and that was like the shtick of that character. Like maybe it wasn't like he was moving fast or anything. Maybe he just really knew how to stab people. I don't know.
Like a boss.
Yeah, like. Or alternatively, I don't know, if your DM will allow, maybe you can go above 20. Again, these are all guidelines to begin with anyway, right?
Right,
So, I
right.
mean, it's not like you can't do it. It's just suggested you shouldn't.
Yeah, it is worth noting that the stronger you let the characters be, the harder work it's going to be on the dungeon master.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is why I'm saying, like, you can do it. It's just not recommended.
Ian, would you like to tell us about proficiencies? Because this is definitely something that needs to be addressed for conversions.
Oh, yeah,
I can
because-
imagine.
Because proficiencies definitely work very different in throughout the various editions. No question about that.
Right, they're mostly as skills, right?
Yeah, like in 5th edition, the characters' proficiencies usually comes from their race, class, and backgrounds, especially class and backgrounds.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what proficiencies will have to occasionally be changed based on DM permission, and based on your character's history, you should try to pick a background to fit your character's background as part of the conversion.
Yeah. I mean,
And
if you were a thief in, like, previous editions, you're probably just going to choose criminal.
Right.
Just saying.
And alternatively, since there are rules in place for creating custom backgrounds, your DM could help you create an appropriate background from scratch, and then pick the proficiencies that reflect what the character is good at.
I really like that option, honestly. Because obviously there, like, some of the backgrounds in here, sometimes it's hard to be like, well, that background really, none of these backgrounds really fit my character's theme. So it's like, well, what do I do? Right?
Yep.
Like, say I was like a prince, right? Maybe my character is legitimately a prince in some kingdom and he's just coming to this part of the Forgotten Realms. Well, a noble doesn't really work, right? Because a noble is, you're a noble in this area and you have status and power in this area to get, like, audience with other nobles in this area. And I'm not from here. I don't have this token that says, yes, I am of high status. Let me in. Well, my high status from way yonder in the west doesn't matter if I'm over here in the east.
Right.
So I always think, like, modifying, like, backgrounds, existing backgrounds, or even just creating a different background would work great.
Yeah.
Or, like, some of the skills, like a soldier, like, being great specifically only with intimidation and athletics. Well, why can't I be good at persuasion instead of intimidation?
Right.
Like, maybe I'm good at calming the people down instead of saying, like, hey, fuck you, get back in line. Like,
Oh, that's funny. It is worth noting that there's far more detail on this page than we're going into. We're just giving
Yeah.
you kind of an overview. Mostly because you don't want us to just sit here and read everything. One thing I will point out is most of these little details have a section after each of them called "For the DM," and it gives more specific instructions on background conversions. But basically, we're putting it in a nutshell for you. I do think that and honestly, I'm guilty of this too. The background creation instructions, there's no reason that if you said you wanted to create a background, if you followed those guidelines and said, hey, I want to create a new background, I'd probably be fine with it. You know why? Because the guidelines balances it automatically. So that makes this such an easier thing to deal with. Because, that's one thing I see that people complain about is skills aren't in 5th edition. Oh, man, I miss having this list of 50 goddamn skills.
I don't miss it.
Dude, hey, you're on the water. I want to know if I can tell which way to sail. Well, have you ever been on a ship? No. Well, okay, well, how would you be able to help with that? Well, there used to be a skill with that. Okay, has your character ever been on a ship? No. Well, then no. You wouldn't know anything. You might know that you're on a boat. That's about it.
Right.
But the sailor would be like, oh, yeah, I'm a sailor.
If you were a sailor, he's probably like, yep, that way's north.
But, a thief, a rogue could turn around and say, well, yeah, because of my criminal background, I've sailed a lot. Okay, go ahead. Give me a check, and I'll let you provide your proficiency bonus. You know,
Honestly, that sounds so believable.
right?
I had to leave. I had to leave this hold and get to this one, so
Right.
I know how to get around on a ship. Actually, it's like, oh well, you know what? Yeah, that's fair. Okay, cool.
The next thing I want to talk about is feats. There is no direct conversion for feats in fourth edition or in from third and fourth edition because feats have such a different role now than they did previously.
Oh yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
because of
know.
that, there's what's that?
I said I wouldn't know.
Well,
Honestly,
So for those that are new, um,
like
feats. Go ahead.
yeah. Go ahead.
Feats had a much more important role, but at a smaller level. So you would pick collections of feats to get a desired effect. And the
Yeah.
combination of those little buffs basically created a unique character. In fifth edition, the entire idea of a feat is it gives you all those collections of skills to acquire that entire feature. So for sharpshooter, for example, right, that lets you
Mhm.
avoid cover or ignore some cover. It increases your rank. You might need to take 2, 3, 4 feats to get to that point. Now it's just one feat, but you don't get them every other level. You get them much rarer than that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
And on top of that, you have to sacrifice an ability score improvement, which can be pretty
is
huge
horror.
depending on how you
Yeah,
want to work your character.
I'll admit when Fitch came around, I was not a fan of that at all.
Yeah.
Especially since like in fourth and 3.5 in particular, there were feats everywhere. There was like long lists of feats you picked from, and you got them way more often too.
Yeah, it was like
Well-
Oprah throwing that shit out. You get a feat. You get a feat. Everybody gets a feat today.
Alternatively, I mean it because I kind of agree with you, Ian.
Yeah.
I hate I hate kind of having to make that choice, but at the same time I understand because they're
Well,
kind of strong.
I mean, the idea for fifth edition was to simplify things, but I think the problem though was I think in some regards they took simplifying things way too far to make things more accessible to newer players. But for those of us who came from like a background, like, but we like things this way. Why you change this thing that already worked just fine?
But it didn't work just fine. That was the problem.
Yeah, but that's a matter of opinion. But that's another topic into itself.
Right.
Anyway, so moving on, the feats are much more impactful now.
Mhm.
And the reason, to my understanding, the reason they did that is there was a million ways to build a dead character, and
Yeah.
that was unfortunately a problem if you
Oh.
didn't already know how to build out your character before you started, like all the way to the level, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
they wanted to get rid of that.
Well, once again, there was a lot of feats back in the day, and let's face it, a lot of feats did nothing. Whereas, like a lot of feats had prereqs that required you to take a feat that did nothing to get that feat that did something, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I think they took that approach. Anyways, so moving on, Austin, would you tell us about spells?
Yeah. So when it comes to spells and converting any edition character for fifth edition, just pick spells that just I mean for one pick spells known as if creating a new character of the appropriate level. So you're not going to choose like an 8th level spell when you're level 2. Don't do that.
Yes.
That's not allowed. That's really one, you won't be able to cast it, so I don't know why you took it, but um and
It,
two, just
it
why do that?
yeah, basically pick spells that are in the book and get as close as you can because it is not easy to create a nice balanced spell.
No.
So if your spell doesn't
Yeah.
exist, there's no direct equivalent. So you will create them as if you're creating a new character and follow the
Yeah.
rules. It's about the best you can do.
And like there's like over 300 spells or something like that in D&D 5th edition. I'm sure there's something out there that you can probably find. It just might not be as immediately accessible. Like maybe it's a 7th level spell
Right.
instead of maybe what was originally a lower leveled spell. I don't know
Right.
how it was in previous editions, obviously, but I mean, it's probably there. And even if it's not exactly the same, talk to your DM about it. They're
Right.
guidelines at the end of the day. Just say
Right.
like, well, I don't like that this deals thunder and lightning damage. I want it to deal cold damage. Well, okay. I guess in your specific case, you are a master at it of being cold. Congratulations.
It is worth noting that balancing spells is really hard, but there is a
Yeah.
guide in Chapter 9 in the DMG that gives you guidelines. But I do recommend that make sure there's not something that already exists first because the quickest way to unbalance your game is two things. Give your players too many powerful items and create shit that's imbalanced. Because while you may think you know everything as a game designer and you're hot shit and you'll never make a mistake, um, it'll never be as proficient and practiced and well played out as any of the shit that
that
WotC
they already have
are
put out.
testing. Yes.
Yeah.
Even and I'd like to point out that they still make mistakes even with all that play testing. Don't even get me started on that stupid druid spell. So, anyways,
Which one?
the one you can run in circles and just infinitely heal yourself.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, that one.
I don't
was-
remember what it's called, but it's they've admitted that it's broken, but
Yeah.
thousands of hours of gameplay and even they still miss shit. So,
Mhm.
Healing Spirit, that's the one.
Healing
Pile
spirit.
of shit.
I was like, spirit heal? No, that's not it.
Nope.
And actually, Steve does have a couple interesting questions too. That's a little bit off topic, but when I heard you address them before we move on.
Sure. Have on it.
Basically, he's talking about milestones. He started using XP, but he's starting to see like the value of milestones as they go by. But he's like, how do I know what level players need to be at for certain adventures at what point, and how do I balance stuff accordingly? Is what he's saying in a nutshell.
Well, this so I'm gonna split this into two things. First, if you're building the encounters yourself, whenever you want, because basically, if you're gonna design the encounter, you can say, "Oh, I'm designing this encounter for." In fact, I just did it. My guys on our stream got a boost of level. You know why? Because I altered the encounters. I altered them to be for 8th level characters, right? So I knew they had to be there. So I said, "Oh, boom! You guys got a boon. You're good. That's it." Milestone is whenever you want, and if you're running a like a pre-made adventure, then the pre-mades tell you exactly what level is expected. For me, I would consider doing it maybe at the end of every adventure. So if you're running modules, maybe at the end of this module they level up. Some of the modules will actually tell you this module will take you from 1, 2 to 3. Just look at the encounters that you're running to determine which one whereabouts you need to level. But really, not in the middle of a fight, horrible idea. Not in the middle of a dungeon, horrible idea. I recommend long rests. It would be the best time to actually have them, actually level up.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's why I switched to Milestone for two reasons. One, I hate tracking XP. What a waste of time. Two, it's just easier for my storytelling purposes.
I absolutely loathe XP because it is strictly combat based. What happened
It
to
doesn't have
the
to be
rogue?
though.
What happened to the rogue that maybe didn't do anything in combat recently, and he got you past a combat encounter, so you guys didn't have to fight. He picked a lock to get you guys through, like, this otherwise impossible to get through door, unless you like bash it down. You had a barbarian who used his thick head, maybe, I don't know.
Easy fix.
Wow.
Give them the XP for the combat encounter that they didn't fight because you found the way to get around it. Boom, done.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair, but like still, like that isn't in the book though.
Right.
That's the thing. Not everyone would immediately think of that, and that's just like, I don't like XP. Milestone is just infinitely better.
DM
Reward your players for doing awesome things.
Yeah, DM Council. That's what inspiration is mostly for too. DM Council actually has a really good question, and I mentioned that there was a lot of number statistic conversions in here. He specifically is asking about, at what point do pluses or minus become advantage and disadvantage. He picked -4, +4. That's right on the money. There's actually in the DM details for modifiers. Once you hit a +4 bonus and a -4, it basically becomes advantage or disadvantage. So you hit it right on the money there, boss. There is an entire section about converting
Like alignment, languages, and personality.
yes. We're gonna skip that. Alignment
Yeah.
in 5th edition is not nearly as important as it was in previous. It's no
No.
longer tied to certain builds like paladins and shit. There is details in
Some
here for
people
this.
Seem to think they are.
Yeah. So we're not gonna go into that, but it is there if you want to read it. So feel free to do that. Equipment, we talked a little bit about that. Just look for gear that can be equivalent, and then just reflavor it. Like we said, the one I like to use is the katana because I laugh at people that post that. The katana's a long sword. Use the stats. You can still call it a katana. Nobody's going to be mad. If you want to run a
Even-
Nodachi, use a short sword. Just call it a Nodachi and describe its
I even
visual
used
look.
like a scimitar and I just called it a katana. It's just I don't know. It made sense. It's a slashing weapon that I can use finesse on. I can use my dexterity with it. Boom. I know I have a katana. It's just a
Boom.
scimitar.
Done.
But
All right. See, he's got it. Nailed it. Like a boss. That's how you do it. Super easy. Now, the adventure section is really long, so I do want to just touch on the quick conversion, which mostly everything in your game, your adventure that you're running can stay the same. The only things that really need to change is the monsters and their statistics and any treasures, basically, right? That's it. That's really all that needs to change. And you can roll those out. You can take whatever's in that book and throw it out and, oh, this is a spell scroll of this such and such. Roll on the spell scroll thing and come up with something random and pick it out and add it. Same thing with treasures. There's tables in the DMG to do that. I cannot recommend it enough. That's the easy part, changing out the magic items in the treasure.
I've seen some YouTube videos where like some guys have said like for 3.5, for example, like I just basically run the adventure almost as is, since the numbers don't really change that much for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yep. So, and once again, because it talks about details of all the different types of changes, we don't want to get into it too much. My simple suggestion would be look for a similar monster, right? So, if they're fighting skeletons, there's a skeleton. You can change the way the skeleton looked. You can change the weapons the skeletons are using. Instead of swords, maybe, you know, they're just slamming them with their fists, so it becomes bludgeoning damage. You don't have to change the damage or that type. Now, we do know that there won't be necessarily the same monsters, but you can easily go through the monster manual and pick out stuff that would be in that layer, you know. I'm trying to think of something. What's a monster you know from 3rd edition that's not in 5th edition there, Ian? I can't think of one offhand.
I know. Neither can I.
Because I know there's a bunch of them, but it's just not.
Yeah.
A shaman monster is not in the player's handbook as far as I know. You can get a dryad. That's close enough. Use the dryad stats.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I did mention Moon Cow earlier.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The moon cow. You gave a great example. So you went through, instead of you coming up with a moon cow stat, you used the Dracolich, right?
Yep.
Sure, you might have to take away an ability that doesn't make sense for that monster, but players don't have to know that.
Right.
That's honestly my recommendation. Once again, they've got a whole guide in here that talks about if the armor class equals 19 minus the character's AC up to AC 20. So they give you all kinds of shorthanded tricks to do it. And it's broken down by the several different editions. So, but for me, reflavoring is so much less work. I mean, like I said, I'm very lazy. And because of that, I would never go through and restat out every new monster. You know what monsters I stat out? The big bosses. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I pick stuff that exists. I toss it in, and oh, it's supposed to be an undead goblin. Okay, now he's got undead fortitude. That's it.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Move on. You know, it doesn't have to be super complex. I do think it is worth noting that environmental effects have changed quite a bit throughout the as far as the way the mechanics are designed. But if I've learned anything from Grimtooth's book, is you can pretty much just toss a DC on that shit and it fits. So easy, medium, hard, and just go on.
Yeah. There's a table for it in the DM's book. It's just,
Yep.
it's all there for you.
But surprise, the DMG does more stuff that contain magical items.
Right. When it comes to the traps, actually, I think in Xanathar's there's actually a table in there that actually says if the characters are this level, here's the level of damage from low, medium, high to deadly, and the same thing with the DCs and the attacks.
Yep.
So you could print that. You could take a little picture of that, print that bad boy out, post it right on your DM screen. Okay. Oh, this encounter in this Greyhawk trap.
Sorry, go ahead.
This magical laser shooting crossbow is supposed to be a high damage thing. My characters are level 10. Oh, it says the damage threshold for level 10 DC is probably 19, right? Or 18 or something like that. So, all right, this is going to be 18 DC for them to radiant damage for them to save. Here's the damage scale that it recommends. Literally, if it's on your DM screen, you can make that up as you go.
I think even on like the Dungeon Master screen, the reincarnated one for D&D 5th edition, it literally has it on there too.
Yeah. Oh, DM Council's got a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I got
No,
excited.
That was it.
Okay. DM Council has a great thing. Ever combine creatures to make an encounter more unique, dude. My monster variants are 100% combinations of multiple creatures' abilities and some player features. I do that every day. I do that in all my games. I do that on the fly sometimes. I remember in a game with Brandon and a couple of some friends that are no longer friends were there, and they went left instead of right. So I was like, well, what would be the left? Well, there's kobolds over here. Maybe they're warring with some goblins. So I tossed some goblins over here. They ran into these goblins. I'm like, these goblins are really, really great with long polearm weapons. So now they've got polearm mastery. Why would goblins have polearm mastery? That's what that tribe specialized in. And man, did it catch my players off guard when they charged at those bastards and got stopped dead in their track by the sentinel combination.
I totally thought you were going to say, like, because there was kobolds over here, maybe they're riding the kobolds.
Oh, that's good. I like his example. He talks about using a skeleton with like a bone ooze thing, which I think is cool. Definitely would recommend that. Stuff is great. I really, if you ever are looking for a way to build a unique monster, label your monsters in your monster handbook, which is like 300 of them, and roll the 2D 300s and combine those two. You don't got to combine all their stats, just the core features. Like the undead one, undead fortitude is a very default undead thing. So if you combine something with undead, oh, it's an undead dryad. Well, that's different and weird. Instead of nature stuff, it's like all necrotic and dying nature. Maybe that's why she's pissed off and killing people, because she's upset about something. And she's dying and melting because some asshole upstream is poisoning her water. You know?
That's pretty rough.
Yeah. See, just made one up for you. Have at it.
Boom.
There's a lot of details in this. Like I said, go to critacademy.com /post/173, I think is the... I think
173.
I think that's the link. I'm kind of curious if that's what if I actually labeled it that. I in fact did not, so it's conversions. I want to give you the right critacademy.com /post/conversions. I'm thinking of changing it to like the episode number so that they're easier to reference quickly. Anyways, do you guys have any other points on this? Something we might have missed? I mean, I know we don't have enough time to go into the nitty gritty of everything, but
yeah, there's still quite a bit more in here, but
it really comes down to one simple thing. If it doesn't exist, you're not sure what it's supposed to be, find a lookalike or reflavor something that's within the level range and go with it. Reflavor does it all.
It really does.
Yeah. I think that'll do it. I do want to give a shout out to Wizards for making this, because when I first started writing stuff from converting from 4th edition, this was super helpful. And it made my job a million times easier. I realize now I don't actually need it, but it really was a great help when I started. So
yeah,
that'll do it. Before we move on to our favorite topic, it's my favorite topic, it's your favorite topic, our honor tips and tricks, we have another gift to give away. Compliments of our buddy, Jeff Stevens. Ian, would you like to tell us about it?
All right. So, today, Jeff Stevens is giving away Scourge of the Nightingale.
That's different!
Yeah, part 1, A Song of Love.
Ooh.
A masked menace terrifies their region, raiding villages to fund her devious plan. Unknowingly, the adventurers stumble upon her most evil scheme, the kidnapping of a famous performer known as Devon Artis. Their mission is to deliver a ransom and collect Devon, though, as in most cases, not all goes as planned.
Story of my life.
Oh yeah.
So, I'm really excited. This is a new product. Thank you, Jeff, for all your support. If you guys haven't checked it out, we ran a game with Jeff. Jeff was our dungeon master, and we play tested the War Turtle Brewery. Oh my God. It was
Some
so
weird
much fun.
stuff.
It was funny as hell. You gotta go see it.
Some crazy stuff.
And unfortunately, we had a party composition perfectly suited to take out the final boss.
Yes, it was great. I mean, who doesn't? Let's just talk about this. One of the monsters literally was like a keg of barrels, like Voltron, that we had to fight, and it was awesome. So
Yeah, that was fun.
Also, the drinking games were fun too. I wish I had a real shot I could have take. I mean, that intoxication level and shit was fantastic. So, anyways,
It was great.
it was fun. So check it out. You can find it at our YouTube channel. Head on over to Crit Academy or youtube.com and just type in Crit Academy. We don't have enough subscribers yet to have our own /Crit Academy. So if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe because it's hard to tell people where my YouTube channel is. I just like to say youtube.com/Crit Academy. So go subscribe. If every single person subscribed that listens to this every month, we would get high enough to actually do that.
Yeah.
So I challenge you. Do you accept? Who's our winner today, Ian?
Our winner today is Isaiah.Hall79.
Congratulations, Isaiah. If you enjoy the product, please leave Jeff Stevens a review. And if you like it so much, consider picking up the next part. I think it's a trilogy. But it is a good standalone adventure on its own. Just to make sure that's worth noting.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you didn't win, no problem. We got you covered. It's how we roll over here in Crit Academy, right, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We be rolling. They hate it. I'm sorry. So head on over to critacademy.com/Jeff Stevens, and you can still pick up Villains and Lairs and Encounters on the Savage Seas 3 for free. Do it.
There you go.
Now, to our secret sauce of the episode, or of the show. We have our unearthed tips and tricks, where we bring you new and creative content for you to bring with you on your next adventure.
Yeah.
So Ian actually had a good encounter idea in here, and unfortunately I had to get rid of it because as I was going through our old stuff, I realized we had already covered it. So I had to grab something really quick.
That's the problem. We have so much stuff, it's easy to forget what we have done or not done, even
Right.
when we go through like the table, because it has a name, but not necessarily this description.
Right.
Mhm.
I could do that better, but I'm lazy. We've said.
Yeah.
Austin, would you like to tell us about our character concept?
Absolutely. The character concept today is the Ardent Soul
Ooh.
from the Player's Handbook 3, 4th edition. I am hoping that is what that means.
That you nailed it, man.
That's
I
right.
didn't know how to play it, but I did it anyway.
I have so many 4th edition books, you have no idea. So I've got to get more use out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you are a brilliant vessel. You embody hope, joy, and endless confidence. And your presence lifts your allies' spirits. Man, that's awesome. On the battlefield, you wash away despair, dispel doubt, and fuel your allies' passions in a hopefully more war hero battle-y way and not otherwise.
Yeah.
As an Argent Soul, you have an uncommonly pure spirit. Hopefully. You see the best in every situation, finding solutions where others find only defeat. Melancholy has no hold on you, for optimism's light burns away grief. Others find your good nature infectious and strive to rise to your example.
Sir, we are completely surrounded. You mean we're in a target-rich environment?
Sir, you're right! The road to becoming an Argent Soul is varied. You can simply be a good and wholesome person, untouched by the horrors you have witnessed. Or you might have been touched by a god, your soul purified and claimed for higher purpose. Regardless of the cause of your transformation, it is profound. When you fight, a silver corona glimmers around you. Those it touches feel their confidence building, the pain from their injuries falling away so that they can keep fighting no matter the odds. You could probably do something with that. Give it like a... You could... Almost like a racial feature, like a weird like boon, I guess, that you could bestow on somebody, and like give them like if like you can activate this like once a day kind of thing. You can give it like a bless spell.
I was just thinking it was the bless spell or the shield spell, any number of support spells, right?
Mhm.
So in 4th edition, this is actually like a unique like class path thingy. But the idea itself can be broad across any sort of paladin, druid, cleric, bard, war chanter. By the way, this is a great war chanter concept. It looks like we got a Silverwolf mentions Major Armstrong from Fullmetal Alchemist is this concept. You're not wrong.
No.
Very much a
Yeah.
a good wholesome person, as you said. I really like this concept. It's pretty complex, but I think it can apply to a lot of different character archetypes. Even a mage, even a wizard could do something with this. With its aura just being like its mage armor or something.
You like, I mean, obviously this kind of comes off as like immediately as like paladin,
Yeah.
right? Because of the whole like auras that they have with like the aura of the thing that makes it so they're no longer afraid.
Actually,
I
I
don't
know
know
this may not have been intentional, but it does make me think of the sorcerer I ran on Friday.
Yeah, the
Ha!
Divine Soul
Yes!
Sorcerer. Yeah,
Happy
I-
accident.
yeah,
Yeah, the divine soul sorcerer who was a protector Asimar.
and you could just run an Azamar, literally.
I
It
mean,
just
he basically
works.
he was busy watching on the healing people, but when crap went down, he just went Super Saiyan.
Yes.
All right, time to purge stuff with divine light.
Let me show you my light, baby.
I
And
may be a healer, but as
I
he like
kinda let-
clocks his Glock real quick.
Actually,
I-
for me, the part like, I kind of laughed at the most was when I did like a heightened guided bolt, and you're like, "Why was that not your opening move?" Me, that was my opening move.
yeah, I clearly wasn't paying attention.
Oh, man.
The another person this reminds me of is I am here. Shit, what's his name?
Oh, All Might.
All Might. Yes,
Yeah,
this
All
is very
Might,
much All
yeah.
Might.
Oh yeah.
So always having
Yeah.
a smile, no matter how bad it gets. That would be almost annoyingly so. Like,
You could
what are you
say-
doing, Justin? I'm smiling.
You could even say like this could be like Aang from like Avatar: The Last Airbender too. Like
Oh yeah.
pretty much any like protagonist that just has that like whole like not like the I have a tortured background, both my parents are dead protagonist. This is the like I was raised really well and I have a very good upbringing protagonist.
I was frozen in
Actually, back to-
ice for 100 years, and then
Yep.
the Fire Nation attack. What?
Actually, back to All Might. It's amazing, but that guy got done with just charisma and reputation alone.
I know, right? That actually. Did you watch One Punch Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they got
King.
the King is the same way, where like he
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to ruin it for anybody else, but he really is not all that badass. He just like stands there and it can
He
scare
just
people away.
exudes this like presence, and that's just like, oh man.
He just stares at you, and people like, I surrender.
Yeah,
Right.
he's like, I don't want any part of that guy. I've
And
heard the
when he
rumors. This is fine.
That combined with his reputation.
Right.
Mm.
All right.
Oh my God, that's so scary. What's he gonna do to me? I surrender.
That'll do it for our character concept, the Ardent Soul from the 4th edition Player's Handbook 3.
Here's Handbook 3.
Our monster variant comes from Theros. I am sad that got pushed back. Very sad, cry, teary-eyed. Which means our prize is going to be pushed back because we're giving away a physical
Theros.
copy. We'll have it shipped right to your house. So we need to get it out though, because I want to cover the book and then give it away on that episode. So our monster variant is the Hyrax Tower Scout. The Scouts of Hyrax Tower keep watch at the edge of the Cetessan territory, protecting the polis from inhuman monsters and enemy armies. Some have attempted to cross the borders into Cetessa and have failed, for they have underestimated the Scouts of Hyrax Tower. These scouts take their duties with dedication. Few rival in protection of their country and their sisters in arms. Those that attack them, expecting easy prey, only find their attacks repaid in kind and decisively. So this was an interesting character concept. I had to find a way to make an interesting like polearm spear user. So I actually went with a very odd choice. For the original stat block is the marrow, but it's going to lose amphibious, it'll lose the swim speed, bite, claw, large size, and harpoon. So bring it down to a medium size. You are going to increase its AC by 2. The artwork for this, it has a spear and a shield. So I wanted to make sure that that was captured. So then they have the spear, the long. I'm calling it a long spear because it looked big as hell in the image. It's They can still throw it though, but it has a reach of 10 feet instead of just the 5 feet that the normal spear has. It's basically a pike, to be honest. I don't know why I just
Yeah.
didn't call it a. Can't throw a pike. That's why, or at least not proficiently.
And like
Uh,
it's basically Amazons too, so
yeah, right. And so you can, it's got a good range of 30, 60 feet, the rock and the spear. The most interesting mechanic is they have reaction sweeping counter. When a creature misses the scout with a melee attack, it uses its reaction to make a long spear attack against the creature. On a hit, the target must succeed a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone.
Damn.
Yeah, so
Get bopped.
so basically, they have a ranged weapon that they can basically use the trip attack, right? They can knock them to the
Yeah.
ground and poke and prod. Because guess what happens when you get knocked to the ground?
They have advantage on you.
Yeah,
And-
stab,
and-
stab.
with melee attacks, that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes the a collection of these very, very dangerous. Because if you attack one and they get a free they get to attack on not their turn. Makes it very punishing to try to attack them. So having a collection of these can easily bring your characters down to the ground level. So, what do you guys think?
I think it's cool, honestly. Like it's a simple concept, but I can imagine just like a row of like 3 of them would just be terrifying, just because of the fact that like if you you got to get close,
Right.
and they have a 10-foot range, so they can kind of just disengage from you almost whenever, because they have
Right.
that 10-foot range and you only have 5. And
Yep.
then not only is that a problem, but they can also just throw it at you. And then so they also have some range. I wouldn't say a lot, but they have
Yeah,
some range.
gives
Which
some
any ranged
versatility.
option is better than no ranged option, I guess.
That's part of the reason why it's not a pike.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned a range option is better than no range option, because you remember that when fight we had against the Cambion for
Mhm.
Flying fight?
yeah, in Everness, and we at least had, well, okay, let's be real here. My character in particular was equipped to deal with it.
Yes.
We did that same fight on my Saturday group, and the only players who showed up on Saturday were the Paladins,
Oh,
who are melee only.
Oh no!
Yeah. that's not good.
Did he just like melt their face with his like scorching rays?
Pretty darn close. In fact, I won't get into how we dealt with it, other than like a few things were dealt with differently than how we handled it.
Right.
But I'm like, I keep casting command on it, telling it to approach me, because what else am I going to do?
Come hither. I think that'll do it for our monster variant, the Hyrax Tower Scout. Ian, would you like to tell us about our encounter?
I can. Our encounter on the podcast comes from Dennis Boone. A dying warrior emerges from the forest with a strange box. His dying words: keep it safe.
What do you guys think about this?
It's a hook for the beginning of an adventure.
Oh, it is. This is glorious. What do you think's in the box?
It could be so many things. There are so many things the DM could make it.
What
So
would you
many options.
What would you guys put in the box?
Could you imagine that it's actually a safe? So he says, "Keep it." It's a safe. That was my first thing.
Oh
That was
my
exact
god.
first thought.
The
So
di-
it's no adventure plot hook. This is it. This is the encounter.
And it's got
The
like
players
some
are all like-
complex like lock on it.
They're like, "Oh my god, guys, it's impossible. Oh, we gotta figure out what's in it." And it's just like a note in there. It's like, "This is all yours. Have fun.
Okay.
I'm dead.
Keep it
This is
safe.
it. This is all. This is my last
Yeah.
position. I gave everything else away. No one wanted this from my will. So here you go."
Well, so what we got here? We got a couple of knuckle bones, 2 or 3 marbles, and a feather. What the crap?
Material components for a
Would
powerful
they feel
spell.
gypped? Yes.
Probably.
But also, there should, when they read the note again, they realize that it's not a smudge after the word "it," and it was in fact a comma. So it said, "Just keep it, the safe." Makes a lot more sense.
Steve says it's his account numbers, usernames, and passwords. Silverwolf says he's getting Treasure Planet vibes. Very, very much like that. And so to me, I think that making it like a puzzle box or something that is, it looks like something that would store something, but the act of opening it actually reveals that it's like a map to somewhere. I think that would be really cool.
Or you could even go like the This could be really weird, and bear with me. You can go like a Yu-Gi-Oh route, right? And have so like it's almost like the Millennium Puzzle, right?
Oh,
And it's like
yes.
it's inside like a box, and the whole point is like you guys are trying to solve this thing, and when you do, now you have another adventure that you could just go right into, which is inside the Millennium Puzzle. Which, if you don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, inside the Millennium Puzzle is a whole fucking dimension owned
Yeah.
by some dude named the Pharaoh.
Well, first when he opens it though, it unlocks the spirit of the pharaoh. So now, if you go that way, you unlock the puzzle. It releases the spirit into somebody. So now they have this sentient magic item with them, right? That they have to share a mind with. That would be great for the person who loves the role play. Could have two different personalities, and you just snap your fingers when they would change, or feed them responses if you wanted as a DM of how they feel about it. But the fact that it had a dimension in it was something that was found out much later. So having it like in an evolving tool would be interesting. But having a spirit in you that didn't remember everything about itself, but had all this great words of wisdom would be really cool.
Or it could be an egg.
What kind of egg?
Exactly. Ooh, or it could be some sort of like infant that's frozen in time.
Ooh, I like that.
We got a lot
I
of
was,
mileage.
yeah, one line. I thought it would.
From one line. This is it. It's literally just one line on our thing here. We got much more out of that than I thought we would.
I think that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast. Keep it
Oh.
safe. Austin, would you like to tell us about our magic item?
You do love me. I love talking about magic items.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm always happy when you're like, Austin, talk about the magic item. I'm like, yes.
Good. Your job moving forward.
Cool. The magic item today is the Nyx Lotus. Again, it's from Theros. It's a wondrous item. It's rare, and it does require attunement. I know some stuff we've covered recently doesn't require attunement. This one does. This unique pink and purple star-shaped flower is extremely rare. It is formed when powerful divine energies clash. It surrounds those who attune to it with powerful defensive magic. So, you now gain the following benefits while attuned to the Lotus. You can cast the Mage Armor spell at will, and your spell DC and spell attack bonus each increase by 1. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough, you also gain this other extra effect. It gets 4 charges. While you hold it, you can use an action to expend a charge to harness the Lotus's power. The next spell you cast within a minute is treated as if it was cast at 1 level higher, up to a maximum of the 9th level. The Lotus regains all expended charges after a 10-day. Really good.
I'm going to be honest. This was a team effort. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook a while ago, I took a picture of the Magic the Gathering card, the Lotus, and I posted and I asked everyone, what would you make out of this? And this is kind of a amalgamation of all those different ideas. What do you guys think?
While I like the item, the description kind of is a little misleading, and this is why I think that. Because it says it surrounds those who attune with it with powerful defensive magic. Makes sense because you get the Mage Armor spell at will. But what's weird about it is you also get this like increased like offensive power that doesn't seem stated. I guess it's a little weird to me. So it's
Well, yeah, I could probably do better, but it was shaped by powerful energy clashing. Maybe it should be magical energy. Divine and powerful divine.
no,
We could do better.
Again, it makes sense still at the end of the day because it is just like this thing is just giving you this boost, right? So like it is of course going to be making you more powerful. But it's just weird that the only like I guess defensive option, which seems to be like the idea behind it, is only Mage Armor. But again, it's Mage Armor at will, so sounds great to me.
And that's one less spell slot for a character to use. It's definitely a win in my book.
Right.
So again, don't get me wrong, it still makes sense. It still holds together well. It's just
So
like
the
that one thing is a little
description
weird.
needs to be better. But the mechanics are fine.
Yeah, the mechanics is fine. I love the mechanics of it. It's just weird that it specifically says like it surrounds those who attune to it with powerful defensive magic.
How about just powerful magic?
Or just powerful magic, yeah.
Problem solved. There we go. Problem set fixed. You got any comments on this, Ian?
Well, as I said before, Mage Armor is basically one more spell slot my character would otherwise have to cast, even if it does last for 8 hours, and that's, as a result, one more spell your character can cast, which is never a bad thing in my book.
Right.
Yeah. Not only that, you get to cast 4 spells to just be a higher level.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Great.
you use a first level spell slot, but cast it at a second. It's fantastic.
I like it.
And they increase the spell DC. I can't believe there's not more items that do that. Because fighters and everyone get swords and stuff that increase their attack and damage by 1. But there's very few magic items that do that for the spellcasters.
I mean,
Yeah, I
shoot,
never really
so-
thought about that.
yeah, like the wand I used on Friday, that was like an uncommon. I'm like, yeah, my spell attacks go up by 1, and that's it. My spell DCs don't go up. I mean, not that my spell attack goes up is bad, but
Right. The
but
D-
like a
I
weapon,
do agree.
their
It is a little
fighter
strange.
damage and attack goes up. So
Right.
Yeah, I can kind of see where that's a little weird. I never
Yeah.
really thought about that. Guess that
Um,
goes to show how much I play Magic users.
I
Honestly.
never.
think that'll do it for our because you're the only magic user I've seen you play use it as smite fuel. So who needs spells? All right, that'll do it for our magic item, the Nyx Lotus from Theros. Our Dungeon Master tip of the podcast is ending early. Don't be afraid to end a session a little early, especially if it would make for a great cliffhanger you've just reached and you've reached the end of the prep work you've done, or you've stumbled onto a good stopping point for the day, and or maybe you just had a long day and a stressful out and you don't want to continue. Sometimes you can slot a time for 2 or 3 hours. You don't necessarily have to fill up those 2 or 3 hours.
Or maybe the module or eventually you got so derailed. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to think this over.
Yeah, because not every person can just wing it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, like another thing for about ending it early, like yeah, like if by that point, if you've already exhausted what you were going to do anyway, right? Anything beyond that is almost a disservice to yourself and to the players, because now you're just kind of giving out this content that wouldn't nearly be as good if you had the prep time, right? Because assuming that that's your DM style, of course, there
Right.
are going to be those people who just ass pull content like this, and it's just like, yep, I'm just shitting great ideas, and I envy you. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip. Ending early. It's okay, people. Do we want to all try the Don't Be a Dick thing? I think we should. We've been doing the live stream for a while. Even if it's off, it's better than just me saying it because I miss all of us saying it. All right.
Or we could say it one after another and edit it together in post.
That sounds like extra work for poor Seth. So I'm
yeah.
not gonna do
We're
it.
just gonna say it all and use
All right.
it as best we can.
I'll try to leave a small pause for you guys to get ready. All right. So, also, Seth, you do have to add out the whole me just explaining all this shit.
Sorry, bud.
For our and our player tip of the podcast is don't be a dick. Not bad.
That might have been really good, actually.
We'll
Holy
see.
cow. Seth will let us know.
It'd be like, no, y'all sucked.
Yep.
Don't fear a character's death, people. This comes from Bookman's articles. There's a full article on it of other player tips. Check out. It's surprising how attached players can get to their characters.
I'm one of those people, 100%. I'm always attached to my characters.
I think this usually tends to be a problem more for newer players with their first character.
You think so? Well, it's because they haven't died yet, so yeah, that definitely makes sense.
There's exceptions, of course, but I feel like that's where I see it the most.
Yeah, I know that when our buddy Matt joined, I think he was pretty upset when I killed Garmore,
I
And
know
then
that.
and then I killed him again, and then I killed him as a player.
I know that if Zorax dies, I will be definitely a little bummed. But then I'll make a new character anyway, and I'll just try
right.
another character concept. So.
And it's not just player characters, right? People get if you do a good job as a DM, they can easily get attached to NPCs, right?
Rezo. True.
So
Rezo.
Dude, poor Rezo. I feel
I
bad.
fucking loved Rezo. I'm so sad that Rezo went out the way he did. It was a great way. Don't get me wrong. It was a
Right.
fantastic way he went out. I'm just really sad he had to go out.
Steve says I got players recklessly playing characters because they got great concepts and waiting. That's hilarious.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh, Matt's here. Sorry, poor guy.
It's like,
He's
how
watching.
do I get to play this other character concept I wanted to play? I guess I'll just run it down with this character.
Right. So to combat the worry of losing an amazing character, try giving them inspiration to make a new one. And you know, try thinking about, new character story, style, and personality, even while you're already playing another one. It's not uncommon for veteran players to have several characters they're excited to bring out, right? Go ahead.
It actually made me think of like the one episode of Voltron on Netflix where they actually had a D&D episode,
What?
and was kind of a running joke was one of the characters had a in-game character that kept on dying, and this new character was always near identical to the previous one.
I've seen that.
New character. I am Jiro, brother of Shiro. Shiro being the best character.
I've come to avenge my brother. What is that? What is that scene from the Doctor Strange where he says, "Dormammu, I've come to make a deal," or what is he? What's the quote?
I've come to bargain with you.
I've come to bargain with you, and he kills him. Dormammu, I've come to bargain with you. You get players that happens to sometimes.
Or the bard from the second Gamers movie who keeps dying in every combat encounter, and they always resurrect him back to life every fight.
That's funny. Remley Farr does encourage his players to get excited and create character sheets so they don't worry about being killed too much. This is a really great tip, and if you guys already do this, that's fantastic. Because there are players out there, and I'll be honest, the first time I killed Garmor, I might have had a little tiny bit of regret.
No,
But then I realized it wasn't my fault because the damn thing was chained up and everybody could have left. So
What happens when you poke the bear?
Well, it wasn't even his fault. That's what makes it worse. It was another player's fault. I would have just left him there. Like, sorry, see you later.
Yep.
But that's me. Garmor's too nice for that. Don't worry, Garmor. You're not the first, and you certainly won't be my last.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll do it for our player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. Okay.
Fuck.
You told that wasn't even great.
Yeah, that one wasn't. Nope. We also didn't say the whole thing either, but
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
So that'll do it for our episode today. Please join us on our next episode. We'll be discussing Elminster's Candlekeep Companion. I cannot tell you how excited I am to do this. If you're following our campaign, we've just visited Candlekeep.
I was gonna say, huh?
It was very small. But once you know how big Candlekeep is and the resources and the hooks that lie inside, it literally can be an entire campaign that takes place as this is like the
Like the hub.
yes.
Actually, my Saturday game, the DM there actually showed a picture of Candlekeep. We're like, oh, that is way bigger than we thought it was.
Right. So I'm super excited to talk about that.
Yeah. If you have any feedback on our tips and tricks or topics you would like us to discuss, though, please send them to us. You can email them to us at critacademy@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
Please send us character concepts. Please send us character concepts. Please send us character concepts. Thank you.
One, we like them. Also, we're running out of ideas.
Well, and I get a bunch. I get some, but the problem is if we've already covered it, I don't want to use the same thing.
Or something too similar.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry.
Which is something we keep running into even now. Yeah. Anyway.
Ian?
On to you, Ian.
Oh.
We hoped you've enjoyed your experience here at Crit Academy.
Okay, Justin.
Sorry for getting out of our conversation and losing my place. We hope you enjoyed your experience here at Crit Academy. If you did, you can help others find the show by leaving a hopefully 5-star review on iTunes, or just send us a message telling us how much you enjoyed the show. Also, be sure to give us a like and a share.
Make sure to subscribe to our show at critacademy.com. Follow us on Twitch .tv/Crit Academy, Facebook. Please subscribe on YouTube. Help us get our own little name across the top because it would be nice to have an email address that I can just say.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, all that good stuff. If you haven't already picked up our Honor tips and tricks or our weapon perks or any of our products, please check them out. Please leave a review if you did pick them up. Every little review helps push somebody else that might buy it over the corner there. And that helps me get money to pay for art and writing and editing for more products. So
And more equipment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So make sure you subscribe so we can help you on your future adventures at our website every week. If you haven't checked out our fellowship members yet, please do. Gabe and Jeff, their Interparty Conflict is an amazing show. I can't recommend them enough. If you haven't picked up on our Tips and Tricks 1, sign up over there. They're giving away a free copy every month or every week. So also check out our awesome Crit Nation Fellowship member, Jeff Stevens. I love Jeff. He's awesome. He has been a great inspiration to me. Please check out some of his content. He's got a lot of good freebies if you want to just kind of dip your toes in the water. So definitely check him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am your host, Justin.
I'm your
What?
co-host, Ian.
And I'm your co-host, Austin. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.
Dun dun dun.